Hello. Hello.
Hey Dick, I can hear you, but I don't know where everyone else is.
Okay, not a problem.
We're only 6 minutes late starting.
That's all right. We're getting there.
Are we supposed to put people here to this thing or no?
Huh?
Eric and Dick are talking to each other.
Who-
Three on it.
Who's three?
Brad, can you?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't even look at the
Uh,
agenda. Dad, I'm sorry.
How?
If you.
Of course,
go
the
under
one
the three
that
dots and then say
Left
make host.
host here.
Okay.
Yes. Here we are. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Can they hear you?
I think so. Hey, Eric. Hey, Dick. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Great. Welcome to our meeting.
Yes.
Welcome to us to the meeting. They started.
I know.
We're
You
all here. Started on time.
started.
We are.
Okay, I'm here.
Oh, there's a delay.
That's gonna get annoying really fast.
Get on delay.
Uh-oh.
You should, they might need to mute themselves. Here, let's see.
Just said that, what, 10 minutes ago?
Why don't we get this?
Yeah, that's always back.
Okay, I move to adjourn.
I know what.
Okay.
I know what-
Though, so there'll be 10 minutes before the vote.
All in favor?
All right, I think you're good now. It was just the Zoom one.
Okay, all right, and this is local government, everybody.
Yes.
All right, so we're all set?
I think you're all set.
Great.
When you're done, just leave everything up. I'll take care of it after.
Oh, okay, terrific. So, Dick,
They're
Eric,
leaving us
can you hear us?
unsupervised.
Yep, I sure can.
Great, and you hear us just once, that is also good. So welcome, everybody, to the Housing Alliance meeting, starting at 6:07 on the 26th. Thanks everybody for coming. So I
Is it
wonder.
possible to share the agenda since I don't, you know what?
Seriously, January? Yeah. Yes, of course.
Really
it
got
is.
it on.
Yes, I could share, I can put it up on the screen.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I'd be happy
Yeah.
to. Not more than happy to, but I will be happy
Do you
to.
have the technology?
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, ma'am. So here's tonight's agenda. Eric, are you able to provide our clerking and secretary services here tonight?
I am.
Wonderful. I will not do that then. Great. So first item on the agenda is approval of minutes, but there are none. So we'll pass over that. Next item on the agenda is expansion of the allowable uses of the housing trust fund that we have. Folks remember the last time we met a long time ago. We made a recommendation to town council to allocate $50,000 to the what was it? The Safe and Main program.
Yes.
Town council, I think excited about that. They unanimously endorsed that idea. I think they would like to use the funds that are within the housing trust fund that I don't know, we all have together. And before doing that, there's I think a little bit of a question as to whether that's an allowable use. In order to make it clear that that's an allowable use, what we'd like to do tonight is make it clear by proposing an amendment to the allowable uses to make it clear that these funds can be used anywhere within Cumberland County. And so if somebody would like to make a motion to do something like that, similar to what's on the screen, that'd be great. Thank you, Leroy, for the first and Bill for the second. Any discussion?
Good idea.
Wonderful, thank you. Dick and Eric, any thoughts?
No.
Great.
Did you guys see what Tom sent?
In terms
He
of,
sent an email about an hour and a half ago with amendments. Proposed amendments.
is it, it's
Is
not,
there any-
it's not this. Kimberly?
Can you read the amendment?
No, because I can't get it to come up on my phone.
I had it too, yeah.
Did you?
That's,
It keeps saying, well, download it, and I'm like, I don't want it, I just want it right now.
Hour and a half ago.
was,
Some verbiage.
Oh, there it is. Great. Somebody want to read that to the group and Eric?
Can someone read?
It's pretty extensive.
Or maybe Eric, if you wouldn't mind incorporating that by reference into the minutes, unless
Yeah.
anybody has an objection to doing it that way.
No, I don't, I mean, I thought the language is fine, and from the viewpoint of a counselor, it would make our life easier
To have it also.
to have that.
Am I on that distribution? I don't seem to have it in my email. Oh, wait a minute, Affordable Housing Trust
From
Fund.
Tom.
It was sent at 2:30, 2:34.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
The only error I see is in paragraph 2, payment in lieu fell, it should be fee shall be required for each individual dwelling unit. We got a little typographical error there.
Yeah, that's,
Leroy, is that a friendly amendment?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, terrific. So all in favor of the motion as amended? Great, Eric and Dick, are you in
Yep.
favor?
Yes,
Great,
sir.
It is unanimous.
cool,
Thank you, everybody. That's very, very helpful.
Another friendly amendment. The heading says housing and not housing.
Oh,
We're talking about housing. here,
Tom
Eric.
must have taken this.
We're up
Oh,
now.
tell him I said
All
that.
right.
English scholars.
It's recorded, so.
Great. So next item is a revised grant application for the 3I project. at the
Oh,
Downs.
right.
Several meetings ago, we had a request to fund, it was upwards of 40 some odd, affordable housing units for substantially disabled folks, at the Downs. The sponsor has since, reworked their project. I think even changed how it's gonna be funded based on some funding availability from Maine Housing. And now the total project is gonna be, and one of the issues that came up with the original funding request is that there's a prohibition in the ordinance or in whatever,
CEA agreement.
of using the funds that we administer when there's a requirement to do affordable housing, like there is, within the Downs or for the CEA. The sponsor here now, in addition to those 40 some odd required units that the Downs will be using the owner of the Downs will be using to count towards their affordable housing requirement, is proposing to build an additional 7 units within this development, and is asking for our for $200,000 of our funding to help construct those 7 additional units. Those 7 units will not count towards the requirements of the Downs for affordable housing. So whatever requirements the Downs has, those 7 don't count. But for the town, that will bring a total of 51 affordable units in total, which I think is terrific.
Mhm.
So that's what this item is about, and if somebody,
Do we know if they secured the other funding, they had a rather detailed spreadsheet that showed all the different funding sources they were going towards, and then. They told us they were waiting on one entity that they had missed the time frame on. So I guess my own personal feeling is I'd like to know. What happened with all of that as to what they're asking for and what they were able to get. And
I would be shocked if they secured the tax credit funding, just given the cycles of that funding and Eric can probably speak more to this, but it's often typical to have, this is called, local funding or soft funding from local communities. And often it's conditional, and I think we could probably make this conditional upon the receipt of other funding. But when you're applying for kind of the big funding on a project like this, it helps to have the letters of conditional funding
Right.
for these smaller amounts.
Right.
Eric, are you able to, are you familiar with kind of the timeframes for the main housing?
Yeah, so when last Corey came in and presented this to us, they were going to do the walk-in 4%, which is non-competitive with Maine Housing, except literally the week before he came to visit us, Maine Housing closed that program to new projects. And so they had to go back to the drawing board. The 9% tax credit is a competitive round. It offers more money, but that he wouldn't be submitting that application until this fall to get funding for that. And he wouldn't learn about that until December. My understanding from the news, though, is that they may have received a federal allocation for this project. Does anyone?
Yeah, that federal allocation, I think was, I don't know what the amount was, but it was to fund technology going into the project, rather than kind of the bricks and sticks of the project.
Okay,
It's kind of the technology upgrades to support the users and kind of the,
So I think that I'm a bit with Leroy here, that I don't understand how they're funding the development of this. I'm not sure I understand how they're going from 44 to 51 and putting 7 affordable that is excluded, and they want 200,000 from us to do that. It's kind of fuzzy to me.
yeah,
is there more attached to this agenda anywhere, or is it just the agenda on that?
Is Tom away, or is Tom not there tonight?
yeah,
Oh,
Tom's
he's
not here tonight.
He's at a budget meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
uncomfortable motioning to approve it without the information and it being so fuzzy. That's my big thing. And the other thing was that Tom said it didn't fit. I don't know if Tom's resolved that
you mean
problem where it couldn't go
physically-
into the downs because of what was already happening down there and it didn't fit the guidelines. I know Jean Marie, you and him were talking about
Right.
making it fit, but I don't know if anything's been done on that yet.
That's what I don't remember all the details, and then it had something to do with the CEA and the way something was worded. and-
Yeah. There's just a lot of moving parts on this that we don't have answers for.
You mean it didn't physically fit, Leroy?
It
Well-
could be down there from what Tom was saying, because it didn't meet the requirements. There was one requirement that it didn't meet. And Tom was gonna research it and thought that he could get it passed through there, but I don't know if.
I'm not too sure if that isn't why they're taking 7 affordable
Might
units
be.
out. Because the seat in saying the downs will be responsible for X amount, because it's got to do something to do
Yeah.
with CA's
Yeah, well,
requirement.
yeah, no, so what the thinking is behind that is, in the past, I think ordinarily this would be a 51 unit project and we
Yeah.
would be asked to fund a 51 unit project and the downs would get credit for 51 units.
Right.
Towards their
Right.
ability requirement. If the downs got credit for 51, towards their
Right.
obligations, we would be precluded from funding this.
That's right,
And so they've negotiated with the
That's right.
downs to, basically for the downs to agree not to count 7 of those units
Yeah.
towards their requirements in order to create a pathway for us to provide this funding. And really target that funding for these 7 units. So, you can, I don't know what the geometry is of this building, but if
and the
you
two,
could imagine this,
Excuse me.
funding the bottom 2 floors or something like that.
yeah, so where would the 200,000 come from? Would that come out of the
The housing
fund?
trust fund, yeah.
Okay, I mean, to me.
It-
We can make a recommendation to the council, it's up to the council, us to decide whether it fits or not.
Yeah, because I think the other thing too, just coming from zoning board of appeals, I don't think they have adequate parking either to make it work, but that's not our,
No.
that's
it's
not our purview, that's gonna
nothing
be
to do
zoning
with-
board of planning.
That's right.
I just, it would have been nice if someone would have been here to give us an update. As
Yeah.
to what it was, because they did a very detailed proposal, and now we just don't know what that information is, and we're sending a recommendation off. That's my only big thing with this.
Yeah.
What happens when you put that through one POA?
Oh,
link?
good question, Jim, right?
Is there something there?
Nothing.
So I'm reading the Press Herald article about it from February. And it says. Expects the project will go to the Scarborough Planning Board for approval by late spring. Once
Yeah.
approved, and if expected state funding is in place by fall. So it sounds like they're going to apply for a 9% tax credit.
Yeah.
Construction could begin in spring of 2024. So this will then, so if they're going for a 9% tax credit, then the below market capital that we're providing them will give them extra points in the competition.
Right. And that's the other thing, I don't wanna delay anything, for their applications for available funding.
The applications typically are due in August.
Okay,
We, this is from their proposal,
Okay.
here's the section about parking that we were just talking about. So 39 service level parking spaces in a lot, 13 more on street. Most are reserved for residents.
I mean, that's not our purview.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
concerned about the street.
What else? 51 units, here's the unit breakdown. Yeah, it looks to me, this is basically, this is the same proposal that we saw before.
Right.
But they've kind of made the agreement with the Downs to. Essentially make it so that the Downs doesn't get credit
right,
for some of these. In order to, create the pathway for us
Yes.
to. Or for council to give that funding.
and again, I don't vote on this, I'm just telling you my opinion. And to me, there's what, $900,000 sitting in that fund right now?
That's what I was gonna ask, how much is there?
Yeah, and I mean, what are the viable projects out there right now? Nothing.
Right,
So to me, 200,000 to go towards this is a great use of that money. But that's my opinion.
And I don't know that this is a huge thing, but, 200,000. Divided by 7 is 28,500 per unit.
Mhm.
It's kind of a cheap,
You think?
that's a cheap cost to get a unit in full housing.
yeah,
Yeah, if we do 200,000 divided by 51, which is kind of what we're really getting, it's 3,900 per unit. So that's nice.
Well, with Tom's absence, maybe what we should be doing is, we can vote with the caveat that we would like to have Tom
Weigh in.
weigh in. So that the vote can go to the council, but that while we favor the thing, we have the questions outstanding that we'd like to have answered.
Yeah, and I'd like to kind of pick up on one of the things you mentioned, Leroy, which is, and maybe it's automatic, but making it clear that the receipt of this money is conditioned on
Right.
all of the other money coming in.
Right.
Right, so in other words, maybe there are
Right.
some projects where we might want to fund, 200 grand for pre-development costs
Right.
to help somebody explore something. To me, right now, this doesn't feel like one of those.
Right.
So I would want this money going into a live project that's gonna happen and build buildings.
I agree.
And if others are in favor of that, that would be a good part of the motion to.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the
Yeah.
qualifier in
Yeah.
the motion.
Um,
I think that makes me more comfortable.
So, yeah, folks are comfortable, would somebody like to make a motion that captures that spirit?
Yeah, with your caveat in it, on the screen indication of, what we're voting on.
Let me share, let me change my sharing.
Recommend $200,000 to the town council for the purposes of 7 units in this 51 unit project. I so move.
Great, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Michaela. Any discussion? Or any further discussion? There none, all in favor of the motion as presented? Aye. With that caveat. Eric and Dick?
Aye.
Did I hear one caveat or two? Are we still waiting for Tom to weigh in to say that this is compliant?
I think that was negotiated with the Downs is what
Yeah.
I've been
that's right.
hearing.
That's right. Yeah, so the only caveat in this is that they get other money.
But
Okay.
they don't, they don't get this unless they're going to their building.
Yeah.
It's not for exploratory. They've already
That's
done
right.
the exploratory.
All
Right.
Okay, I'm good.
But it would comfort all of us if Tom could follow up this meeting
Yeah,
with a little
Yeah.
bit greater explanation.
Yeah.
So I'll leave that to you to.
Just the definitive
follow
that
up.
it will definitely fit and it can be done.
Yeah.
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 Because as it was the last meeting we had, it couldn't.
Yes. Yeah, and that, so yes, I will follow up with Tom and follow up with you guys on that, but it's I am very confident that that's why we're here talking about that today.
Yeah.
That's,
Good.
great.
Great.
I'll start selling it, like I do with the refugees.
Terrific. Next. Let me find some other things here. So the next, another project in the Downs, there is, within Scarborough Downs, there are multiple single-family homes that fall under the affordable housing program that we have.
Mhm.
Those homes are deed restricted for 30 years. Such that they can only be sold to households that qualify as qualified households. At 80, I think it's 80% of AMI or less.
Mhm.
And can only be sold at a price, can only be sold at a price that is affordable to a household at 80% of AMI or less. About a year or two or something ago.
Actually, 3 years to be honest.
Over 2 years ago,
Yeah.
pre-pandemic.
Yeah, it was during the
There was a sale that took place. And now there is another proposed sale, and when a sale of this sort takes place, there's a whole process that
Right.
somebody goes through. It involves us, it involves the town. And there was a sale contemplated at 33 Gristmill Lane
Mhm.
in the Downs. So that's interesting and exciting.
Tom sent another email on that.
Tom sent an email on that as well. And so you guys have some background. You have some written background rather than.
It
mine.
was a spreadsheet or something again. I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on with my phone.
Yeah, I'd like to see the
Me
spreadsheet.
and Glover. Can't talk to the dogs.
Because that one that sold 2 years ago. I was checking into with some other people and stuff, and the process. Was not what happened in the end. So I think we need to make the process better. And I mean, the lady that sold that property sold it. Within a year, and I think she made over $100,000 on the affordable housing unit. Because there was a set price that Tom had given her. She wouldn't go with that price, and she had a realtor accept all kinds of offers, and basically it was way above.
I gave them the
It
numbers.
was way above what Tom had given her for a figure, so I think
Yeah.
it's. a
So how
good
could you,
chance for
but
us.
how
Well,
could you violate your deed
she-
like that?
And
So-
the particular
say
buyer
that?
that ended up buying it, did qualify, like if this was
Yeah.
a threshold, she
Right.
was just under it.
Okay,
So.
So the numbers did work in the end.
It did, but what was presented from the town to everybody that was looking into that was you can only bid a certain amount and all the bids have to be the same, and that's not what happened.
Yeah, so I think that definitely needs to be cleaned up from last time.
Yes.
'Cause
Yeah.
the way that it was portrayed was not necessarily. I mean, everybody's different with their own
Right.
incomes and stuff, so you can't just say flat rate, this is
Right.
the price.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, So that's what our discussion is.
Smart.
A little bit of our discussion tonight. So the process, I'll be maybe a little loose with this at first, and then we can get into the weeds tonight if we want to. Go something like this, when somebody wants to sell one of these homes, they need to let the town know.
Right,
And then the town lets the person know what the maximum price that they can market the home for is
and how's that determined?
with the spreadsheet.
Yes.
Ah,
That's
gotcha,
where the spreadsheet comes in.
okay,
And so then the person markets the home at that price. And they have a certain number of days where they market the home and this is all outlined in their deed restriction, which is lovely. And if they can't find somebody to buy the home within that period of time, then they've got some rights to increase the price or
Right.
something. But when they have somebody who they would like to sell the home to, they then come back to the town and the town, one, confirms that the person is a qualified buyer, meaning confirms that their income
Yeah.
hits that limit. And then, and I think this is where there's some opportunity to like clarify things. Confirms that the home is affordable,
mhm,
you know, meaning within the context
price
of the
range,
ordinance.
right,
And what the confusion that I think arose last time was, and what there's an opportunity to still arise. Is there's this phrase called maximum allowable price.
Yeah.
Which, when I hear, makes me think that's the maximum price of the place. But turns out that's not what it means. What it means is that's the maximum price you can advertise for.
Right.
So,
oh,
So
yeah, that's what you
if
get a bid for.
Michaela's advertising a place for $200,000.
Oh, really?
That's
Yeah,
nice,
so fast.
right?
This one was great.
Apparently, nothing stops me from coming in and offering 250,000.
Right,
And if that happens to be affordable
Right.
by definition to me,
and you're affordable.
and I qualify otherwise, you know,
Then you can
then-
buy it, then why
then I-
can't you buy it for that price?
then I can, yeah, and so.
Right,
That's, and then the person who's selling it profits and,
are the brokerage fees allowed in this too?
we don't, it doesn't.
Yeah, okay, I would hope
It's
so.
just-
Same as-
I would hope so, yeah, okay,
So there's, I think. At least a couple of things to think about, right? One, is there an opportunity to clarify and clean up the language? Two, is there, you know, ought there be some sort of limit to a person's ability to, you know, I don't know if you'd call it a windfall or not, but like make a ton of money off of these homes? And I think there's a reasonable philosophical discussion about that, right? Maybe yes, maybe no. And three is, I think, a discussion about, is there a difference between what you do with the people who are already in these homes that exist, who, I don't know, maybe bought with a certain set of expectations versus people
Mhm.
who are buying future homes that aren't constructed yet, right? So is there maybe a new form of deed restriction that is like the perfect deed restriction that doesn't cause any confusion versus the ones that are all already recorded that are maybe confusing. So in other words, if we were to get out of one of these meetings and say, yeah, the right thing to do is to make it so that you can't make more than $10,000 for every year that you've owned the home. So that's the right thing to do, right? And I'm not saying it is.
no, right,
But if that were the outcome, right, and then somebody over at the Downs in one of these homes is like, oh my God, I bought this house 3 years ago, and I really was hoping to be able to make more than 30 grand when I sell it in this booming real estate market.
well, that's the.
That would stink, right?
I
That'd be
know.
like a property rights issue, so,
Yeah,
Well, my biggest thing with this is the affordableness of this.
mhm,
Is if you got someone like myself, for instance, works off commission as well as salary, it's based upon your salary. It's not based upon your total net pay with your taxes at the end of the year. It's based
Really?
upon your base. is what it's based upon.
So someone like me, I don't get a salary.
You could go in and buy, well, that's the thing, you could go in and buy an affordable housing unit. And this one was literally 8 months, I believe, the woman was out of it and made it like $100,000. I
don't
looked
think
at,
it was that quick, but,
I-
so wait, we're trying to back this up here. So you think that there should be some type of limit or there?
I think there should be some type of guideline, because this turned around really quickly for a sizable profit. And it took it took a house that was considered affordable out of some of the affordableness of it, because the selling price was not far off from what some of the other ones had gone for at that time.
It still was significantly under
I was
market. And
gonna
I-
say,
yeah,
yeah.
significantly. And I think in the end, here's our guidelines. We want somebody who has whatever it is, 80% or less, and we found somebody. So it was a win-win for both sides, you know, somebody that was looking for a house in an area there that she was able to get into, and on the other end, a seller who couldn't afford something else in the beginning was able to make some money and take that and, you know, move on with their lives and do something positive.
Right.
I think it seems like it worked in that situation.
And the markets are all gonna be different too, depending on what's the mortgage rate
Well,
and what
and
people qualify
Yeah.
for,
That's the other-
given the mortgage rate,
there's
you
no
know?
guarantee that somebody that buys a regular house, you know, is gonna gain 10% in equity every year, you know, it's, you don't know, the market's vulnerable and there's a lot of volatility with it, so I think capping somebody at this is what you should have every year, just, it doesn't seems like you're making this a lot more of a negative thing, positive thing for somebody that's in this position.
Well, I mean, you're
Looking
making,
at purchasing an affordable house.
right, but you're also getting a developer to say they're gonna put a certain amount of affordable housing in the facility when they're doing the development. And then the developer could have sold it for a heck of a lot more money.
Well, sure, yeah.
I mean, but they didn't get that option. So someone that moved in there and didn't really live there that long made a ton of money off from it.
Kind of a
Yeah.
nice way to generate wealth for people that otherwise don't have it.
Correct.
That's
I
what
think that
Yeah.
that's a
look at it,
unique
too.
situation though
Yeah.
too, because the market at the same time that she listed was absolutely, you know, blowing up. And
Yeah.
it's just like, who knows if that happens this time?
And
You
did
know?
she sell it to a person who qualifies
Yes.
for
Yeah,
uh
but she met the terms.
affordable housing?
Yeah.
They
So-
qualified, but you do have some buyers that would kind of be taken out of there at the higher value, because I believe the affordable housing figures in the family members too. So if you had like a single person that just met it,
Yeah.
as
it's one
opposed to a
house
5 family, they
person.
can go up higher and still make it affordable. So someone that's a single person looking. to
But it
purchase that
stays
house,
in the category of affordable housing.
the deed and everything stays the same.
Right,
But I don't
Yeah.
consider it being affordable. That was just my take on it. I didn't
Yeah.
think that the selling price of that
What's
house.
the
was
price that we
affordable.
would recommend? Out of curiosity,
Good
Now it'd
Yeah.
probably be even higher.
I wanna know, yeah.
Yeah, so good question.
So was it just an oddity of the marketplace? Shooting the value
I
up?
think so,
Yes.
Might
I
have
think
been.
so. Mortgage rates were so low and the house values were going like this.
Skyrocketing,
Yeah.
So that people were able to afford,
Because it,
with certain incomes, were able to gap it.
yeah.
I guess is the
an
way to put
affordable
it.
housing owner. Qualifies
Yeah.
and then shortly thereafter sells to an affordable housing.
Buyer.
Owner, buyer.
Yeah.
And who qualifies?
Right. 'Cause
And
the
it
rates were
happens to be
lower.
a differential of a staggering $100,000, so you kind of go, God, what's up with this? But it's an oddity of the marketplace.
Right,
It was also the realtor. I met with the realtor and talked to the realtor about the place, and she was threatening to sue the town if she didn't get the price she wanted.
well, like that. People
Well,
can see.
yeah, the hard part is then you're gonna get, half the time you're gonna get realtors that don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
No, she was
They can deal.
she was pretty adamant.
So let's,
That's okay.
let's,
I'd be like,
oh, James,
Yeah.
let's pretend here that we're,
it's like, give me a break.
let's see if we can run this spreadsheet. And see what happens. So. Let's, no. I think this is a 3-bedroom house, is that right?
I have no idea.
Probably.
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 So. The income limit for somebody buying this house, because it's a 3-bedroom, will be 89,360. And that's total family income.
And then it doesn't matter how many family members there are.
No, it's based on
It's
the
just,
bedrooms.
okay,
Yep.
okay.
And the maximum housing costs for the year.
Yeah.
Is 26,808.
Yeah.
Here. We've got some assumptions about insurance
Yeah.
and taxes and. This and this,
It's just like a worksheet.
Those numbers are pretty low.
yeah, so
I'm
it's,
sure the insurance is much more than that, yeah.
you think so? What do you think's a good insurance number per year?
I'd probably say 9.
900, all right.
They're in the wrong, got the wrong insurer.
Taxes,
Both of my properties above 9 now.
put 5,000. Oh,
Probably 4
4, all right,
for that.
all right. Condo fees for,
And what's,
I don't-
for
It's-
the whole,
You're different. I think it's 75 or like $100.
a month?
yeah,
So that is an association.
Yeah,
yeah.
because there's some.
Yeah, I think it was 75.
Water, sewer, heat, hot water.
Electric's going.
Electric, so, yeah. Let's type, just put 200,
Yeah,
The monthly cost?
yeah,
Yeah, he's still probably low, but yeah.
yeah, well, let's. 250,
Yeah,
so that covers all that, and. What am I gonna do here?
total estimated housing.
Principal and interest on the mortgage. Let's,
Oh, yeah, but no,
That's gonna probably be around 14.
so let's see.
well, the interest, what's the
Give me,
interest
what's an
rate right
interest
now?
rate on a mortgage?
6.5.
6s.
Yeah, I was gonna say for that, if they're a so-called affordable buyer, they're gonna be paying more potentially because of the programs and stuff.
No, couldn't they do mainstay housing? Isn't that like
Yeah.
5.5% right now? They get technically.
Well, I mean, we're looking for.
I would
match,
hope
right?
so,
Right, yeah.
All right, so here we
In
go.
theory,
This
you
is,
get
this is
another-
terrific. So I just put in a $300,000 mortgage. That doesn't qualify, so I'm gonna kind of futz around with this. A 275 doesn't work. A 250 doesn't work. A 225 works, and I can,
Do you remember what that one went for 2 years ago?
I can tell you.
I wanna say it was like the high 30s.
I think it was like.
But what were the rates?
Yeah.
Well, it was
I
the
know,
mortgage rate.
I'd like to look at that in here and see where it actually fell.
so here we go.
Even the Wi-Fi.
So a mortgage, so with a mortgage of 235,000 and all of these other costs. This would be considered an affordable home.
So that would be the sale price. then.
Well, no, that's the mortgage.
Yeah.
Oh, it
So,
depends what,
so now, yeah, the question
okay, go
is,
down here, right?
and so, and here's something else that we haven't quite figured. Go
So
ahead.
you're saying that. Okay, never mind. I didn't, carry on, sorry.
Well, so-
I'm jumping ahead.
Is what percentage of the purchase price do we assume the mortgage covers?
What is the mortgage number?
The mortgage
Is this
number is
hypothetical?
235,000.
I guess we
Okay.
need to know what the price of the house is first, because that's it, because I'm thinking it's probably gonna be at least 3 something.
Yeah.
And that seems like a lot of money for somebody to have to put down if they're in a position to have to buy an affordable
Right.
house.
So maybe that's a question for us to, so if we're setting the maximum price. For the maximum, whatever, advertisable price,
Yeah,
and even maybe the maximum. Something here, like sellable price. Do we want to put constraints around down payments? No,
I mean, that's all part of the mortgage company, right? I mean, they figuring all that stuff.
well, yeah, I mean, how do you feel about selling? One of these program houses to somebody who
Has 100,000.
who shows up with 100 grand in their pocket,
Yeah,
that does, I don't know,
oh, yeah, that's a good point.
right?
but
Right.
you could, this is my thing with this, you could qualify. And they just have a ton of money in the bank.
no,
I think we talk through this each time we have this conversation, to be honest, because I often say, like, yes, if somebody showed up with $1 million but had no income, maybe they won
Right.
the lottery and they make $30,000 a year, they would qualify, and there's really nothing that we could do about that. They qualify under the program that's been set up. And is that wrong? That's the question. Is that, are we not achieving what we want to achieve?
So how about a limit on assets?
We always have to consider the size of the market.
Right,
How many of those people are there in that situation who want to live in the Downs? And so if a seller finds a buyer in that position, I guess good for them. I feel like we can't over regulate this because we're gonna be always going through this exercise.
How much did you find out?
Yeah, so she bought it in March of the 2020 and she paid $260 for it. And then she sold it in March of 21 for $340. But she didn't pay realtor fees and normal.
So okay, get that.
Yeah. Minus costs.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, and you're gonna take off.
So,
realtor
I mean,
fees.
she did make a profit.
But that's good. As Brian said earlier, I mean, this is what we want for people is to build.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
want people to build wealth. That's what homeownership does, hopefully, for most people.
I would just like, I don't know if there's a way to do it. But I would like to encourage someone that really, really needs this. To have it and stay there for 3 or 4 years and build up more wealth. I guess that's, and I don't know if there's any way to actually put that in place here, but. I mean, like you're saying, if someone comes in with $100,000 and no income, they qualify and they can buy the house at
Yeah,
whatever,
that's crazy.
whatever number. I'd like to see someone that really, really needs affordable housing and that doesn't have anything, that is trying to build up $100,000 in the bank. To give them something to go on so that they don't. Just the whole thing with this one, it just sold really quick for a lot of money. I mean, granted, she paid realtor fees and stuff, but. I mean, with affordable housing, we were getting someone into a house that they really needed. And then they moved on to something else, but.
There are two concepts at least. There are a lot of concepts, but there's a couple that come to mind for me very quickly. One is there are a lot of states that do something called shared appreciation. That
Oh, right.
they say if your house appreciates, then you have to share it back with the town, put it back into our trust fund, if you will. And some percentages are like 10%. So any appreciation you get over the life of your home, you have to give back 10%.
I think that would be a great idea.
The other is for qualifying people for tax credit rents, for example, we have to do an implicit calculation of income off of assets. So we have to figure out what their assets are, multiply that by, I think, 2% and assume that into their income.
Yeah.
So that's another concept that could layer in here. It's
Yeah.
just, if I recall some of the conversations we've had in the past, Tom was nervous about the complexity of it and managing it over time.
Because we don't have a house.
Getting an asset statement is.
Right, that was Tom's thing, is like, who's gonna police this? Who's gonna gather all the documents? Who's gonna validate and certify
We
them?
don't have a house and.
And
What was the
sometimes you're
price?
appraising assets.
The one, I think at 225 is what we got in.
For the
230.
mortgage, though, what
Yeah.
was the purchase price that we were talking about?
Well, so we're not. So this is a mortgage of 235.
Okay,
And so if that's financing 90% of the price,
I guess that was my question is how did we determine what the price was? Because for this one, I think it was listed at like. I can tell you. The first time around.
so that would be a 261 list price.
No.
It was listed at 292.
Yeah, it was 292.
Which I'm just saying if somebody needs to have a mortgage of 225, that's a lot of money to have to put down.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
know that it's probably. It seems like a big gap, especially if we're talking about how
Yeah.
much assets.
Yeah.
Have to be qualified.
Yeah.
Like,
As between those options. I mean, I kind of think the back end, you go, some portion of the profit comes back to the program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could be structured in a way that's fair to the owner seller. Because it might not trigger in until you've gone through 30 or 40,000 in profit. So that we're encouraging people to have collecting equity so that they
Right.
can upgrade their life. But if you're going to have a windfall that's never intended, then some of it should go back into the program.
Yeah.
So you could say anything over
A certain amount.
X dollars of net profit over the original purchase price goes back. I could support that kind.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know that was on board. unfortunately.
I mean,
I'm on board with it.
to complexify that a little bit. Yeah, so let's say I buy this house for whatever, that amount of money back in the day. And then I hate the floors. So I changed them out to hardwood floors. And that cost me 30 grand. And then I don't like the sinks either, so I put in this like cute farmer's sink. And really nice doorknobs, and I got receipts for it all, Bill. Don't worry, I got receipts.
Yeah.
And then new paint and really nice like window blinds, and then I saw this house for 90 grand more than I bought it for. And you guys are all ready to capture 10%. I'm like, well, but I put $80,000 into this.
Basis of the process.
Yeah, then you're looking at basis, right?
And now we've got Liam like counting up all the receipts
Oh, geez.
to say, you know, it wasn't really 90 grand in profit that I made, it's 10 grand in profit.
Yeah, that's,
Well, how often are people making these huge windfalls in these places?
I don't think it's very often.
Lately,
I know, that's what I'm saying, we get,
But-
are we twisting ourselves into knots because of one situation?
Ruined it for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be, it's
I'd
gonna
like
be.
to see a more of a history
Yeah,
before I felt like we needed to make a recommendation to modify this.
mhm.
or to think about it, I mean, I assume, and I don't know the plans, but like, I assume there's gonna be new houses built that will be affordable.
Yeah.
That, this type of concept could be built into, and sounds like, yeah, although I made up that ridiculous complex situation, I'm guessing somebody has solved that problem in the world.
I was just gonna say, there's gotta be someone else who's dealt with this.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean-
I do know that deeds with shared appreciation rights do allow for capital improvements to be included in basis.
Mhm.
Which makes sense
And
to
that's
me.
fine, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
the
when-
burden's on the seller owner to document the improvements.
yeah.
Right.
Well, they should be doing that anyway.
Right.
Should
I
be.
I do think, I
Except
do-
there.
Should have, could have.
Standard deduction and haven't ever filed an item.
When they sell too, I mean, part of the process that they have to bring into Tom is they have to bring in the person's payroll and tax returns and things like that. I don't think it would be that much more, like you were talking for an asset evaluation, because Tom's not going over that. That's the seller's responsibility to get all this stuff from the buyer and then present it to Tom, and then he can make an informed decision as to whether or not it qualifies. I mean, if you got someone that has $200,000 in assets purchasing a $300,000 house, I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. I think I'm with Jean Marie a little bit here, that I think we're twisting ourselves. You know, the market's gonna dictate a lot of things on its own. Somebody's not gonna put $80,000 into an affordable home and hope to get it back. And I'm afraid, and Leroy, I guess I would say, if I had 5 different brokerage accounts that total $1 million and I only brought you one, how are you gonna know about the other 4?
Yeah,
What if you change that mortgage rate to 950? What does that do to the selling price? But I think the market's already affected it somehow,
So what?
like 950 mortgage.
Oh, it's just mortgage payment?
$950.
I'm just going like way low like it
Oh,
was back
I was
then.
gonna say, what?
I wanted to just see what it changed the price of the selling price to. Does it give you a total as to what it would be?
Oh,
And you had said it was like 235 was the maximum that qualified.
oh, yes, let me do this,
I'm just looking at a really great mortgage rate.
Those have come and gone.
Oh, I know.
That was a once in a lifetime opportunity. That's why.
so
none of us old people
$950
are
a month
selling our houses.
will get you a mortgage of 148,000.
Yeah,
And if that is. If that's 90% of your purchase price, that's selling for 165.
Yeah.
And if that's 80% of your purchase price, that means you're buying for 186.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the interest rate is gonna help this out a little bit, so I don't think you're gonna see the same scenario, but
Yeah, exactly.
it would be nice if there was just something in there. Cause it is, you have to sell it with the restrictions and stuff for so many years, and I can't remember how much it was, but I
30.
thought it was 30 years or whatever.
Well, 30 from the original.
On the deed restrictions,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's just my 2 cents. I mean, I was just appalled with the process, because everybody was being told there was a maximum price, and the most you could offer was $292.
Don't you know about all
Because I was looking at it when I was moving back to Scarborough.
Oh, to buy for yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I asked what the maximum we should bid it, and I was told $292. As were a bunch of other
So-
sellers. There was like 20 sellers looking at this place.
So,
20 buyers.
Buyers, yeah.
so Leroy,
That's all?
maybe that's part of one of our takeaways that we can get today is, one, I think is we, whatever we means, get questions from buyers. Like, answers can be dangerous, right? So if with this program, there's like a written set of like responses to like the 8 questions we know we're gonna get, and they were always the same answers,
Right.
like that would be helpful,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And like, if one of the questions is how much should I offer, and the answer was whatever you wanna offer.
Mhm.
That would be good, right?
Right.
So that it's in writing and like nobody's like either hearing or
Right,
like getting somebody's either misinterpretation or
right.
whatever of this complicated program. Maybe that could be a good work product for this committee to do. It's
Yeah.
I
like
think that's great.
kind of a
And
user's
changing
guide,
the way that that's phrased.
changing the words, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that it's what is it?
Maximum allowable price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
Maximum
needs to
allowable
be-
price, not
yeah.
selling price.
Don't let the words fool you, Michaela.
Yeah.
Maximum allowable listing price as opposed to sales price.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot more in there, and there were a lot of things that the town had put in there and stuff, which were good, and I just think it just needs to be
Yeah.
refined a little bit.
yeah.
I had never dealt with anything affordable housing before, and this was a shock for me to see this, because
Yeah.
I really was like, wow, you've got all these people, and it's still, even in this marketplace, it's still going to the highest bidder,
Yeah,
and you're trying to keep it affordable for somebody. I mean, I've seen some folks that really, really need a house like this,
Yeah,
and there's some folks that are right at the cusp that
Mhm.
maybe don't.
That's
Yeah.
what's the problem with this market. right
Yeah.
now.
well, and then like
Forget
one of
it.
the other kind of interesting things that then happens is, if everybody was to come in like with the same price, right? How do you pick a buyer?
Exactly.
Right, and one way maybe is like based on contingencies, another is like based on likely ability to perform.
Right.
But like, what does that mean? And how do you evaluate that? And that gets tricky.
yeah.
Ask Michaela and I about that.
Yeah. Figured out pretty easily.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Can I offer a verbiage suggestion? I think that real estate words tend to be loaded, whether it's price or cost so maybe it's rather than maximum anything or maximum or sales price or anything, maybe it's anticipated qualifying price.
Oh.
There you go. I like
That's
that
great.
term.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's reads much better.
That's
than
great.
Allowable sale price. Or listing price. I
Yeah.
guess, so.
Because it gets in the qualifying factor, because everyone
Yep.
has to ask, what does it mean to qualify? Well, it means that your income is 80% of AMI for the size of your
Right.
household relative to the bedroom count. And it just forces a conversation rather than an assumption.
Would help the brokers too.
That's a great idea.
Well. Some brokers.
Um,
No.
all right. So that's the conversation. All right, well, if anybody else want to talk more about that? I don't know that we have any action to do tonight, but I think.
It's just a discussion.
But the minutes will reflect the
Minutes.
conversation, and that'll go back to Tom
Yeah,
Yeah, there's just a couple of
And
things we need to point
yeah.
out.
for,
yeah, we can keep banging on that.
yeah.
I don't know if there's anybody in the public that wants to,
No.
there's not good, or not good, but too bad. But if there was, I wouldn't know how to edit them.
They would have a hand.
Yeah.
I can show you how to do it. Yeah, it'll say attendees over there.
Public and wish they were here. Would anybody like to make the final motion? regarding the meeting before the Mariners play their game tonight.
Motion to adjourn,
All
strike
right,
out.
thank you. Thank you.
Second.
Great, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Good evening.
That was fun.
Technically not. right
Jim,
now.
do you ever do rentals in
I don't do rentals.
no?